Welcome back to the Empower LEP podcast. Today, I am talking with Jenny Ponzuric, who is an absolute leader and resource in our field of school psychology and licensed educational psychology. Jenny can be found at jennyponzuric.com, where she is the leader of an amazing program called the Prepared School Psychologist. And Jenny also has a podcast, The Prepared School Psychologist. So I hope everybody has a great time listening into our very inspiring conversation about Jenny's journey. All right, welcome back to the Empower LEP podcast. Today I have my special guest, Jenny Ponzuric. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am honored. Thank you so much. I do not ever start my podcast like this, but you do. And nobody ever asks you what your favorite TV show is that you're watching right now. So I want to know what you are watching.
Oh my goodness. My husband and I are big fans of Top Chef. And this is the first season with no Padma. So we have really enjoyed the new season. They're taking things a little bit differently. I am a horrible cook. Like I can boil water and that's about it. So I think it's hilarious that we talk about and we're like, I can't believe he did that. We're like, neither my husband nor myself are good cooks. So I love that as we're just sipping our wine, sitting on the couch, talking about how I can't believe they messed up that omelet.
I love that. I went to a women's conference and I cannot remember her name for the life of me, but she, I believe, is on Top Chef. And she's Asian and she has like really cool tattoos all over her.
Christine. She's the new host. Yeah.
Yeah. So she gave just an amazing talk at this conference. She was so great to listen to. And she was so funny because she was like, when I'm nervous, my nose runs. So she had a tissue. She was like, this is making me so nervous. Then my nose is totally running. She was so funny. She's like, I can't believe I'm in television, so she was great. So, okay. Well, thank you for humoring me with that because I'm just like listening to all these people's favorite TV shows. And I was like, well, Jenny doesn't get to talk about hers. So yeah.
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. But what this podcast is really about is learning about people who have kind of taken a different route in their school psychology career. And so I'm super interested in hearing what your story has been like. And I'd love to start with where you started, how you kind of worked through your career, how you made decisions along the way, like how these things even came up to lead you to where you are today.
Oh, let's see. So I have been part of the school psychology world. It's actually my 25th anniversary of getting my credential this year. And that's just crazy to even think about. I worked for a school district for 13 years. And pretty early during that time, I went and took my LEP exam. I studied with a couple of my friends. We had a little study group and we used information from Ross Zatlin. That's going to also, age me there about how to study. And I took the test and I passed it with no intention of doing anything with it anytime soon. I always said, I just wanted it for my back pocket. I just never knew what was going to happen. And I love the field of school psychology. I remember my very first year as a school psychologist meeting one of the school psychs in my district. And when she told me how long she had been in the field, she had been in the field longer than I was alive that day.
Wow.
Which was quite impressive.
Yeah.
But I remember my very first thought when she said that was, I don't think that's going to be me. I don't think I'm going to be in the school district, in this same exact position for 30 plus years. And it took me a really long time to really figure out what I wanted to do with my LEP license. So I worked as a school psychologist in a very typical role at the beginning. I had 3 elementary schools and did a lot of testing, had interns, all that fun stuff. And a couple of years before I left the school district, I started doing a lot more work with RTI. Now we would use the term MTSS, and had some opportunities to really work within my assigned schools. And the district noticed and asked me to do some trainings with some of our other schools there as well. So I got a little bit more comfortable with actually doing trainings in my role there.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I really wanted to impact more students. And so I thought becoming an administrator at the county office would be that path for me. With an idea, maybe I'd work at the SELPA one day and really be able to make that impact for like the whole region.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 3.5 years. And I was like, this is not for me. I loved it. I loved everything I learned. I'm so glad I did it. But I was very quickly like, nope,
Yep.
not me. I don't like to manage people. I don't like all of those personnel issues. I just want to go in and get my work done
Yeah.
and help students, and then just let me get my job done. So it was actually 2016 that I decided to leave that admin position in the middle of the year, I will tell you. And I decided I wanted to go do some trainings and work for myself. And during that time, I had, like I mentioned, some opportunities to do some trainings within my job role. And then within my SELPA that I was working with, they were giving my name to other people. So as an administrator, you don't have to, you have a lot of like kind of non-contract days that you get to pick and choose throughout the year. I didn't have to follow like a school schedule as much. And so I got to go do some trainings in my non-contract days. And at some point, I ran out of non-contract dates. Like someone had contacted me and they were like, can you do this training? And I was like, well, I can't like call in sick. That's unethical, right? I can't do that. I was like, I'm either going to have to say no to them or I'm going to have to figure something else out.
Yeah.
And that was quitting that job so that I could go do that.
Were
And
you had you already started doing um, like your Ventura model,
for learning disabilities, the PSW.
yes. Had you already, but there's a name. What is that? How am I blanking on it right now? It's like your big matrix with like all the things.
Oh, the compares document.
Yes, like all
that, yes.
everything. Yes, the compares
Right.
document and all that work in that big, beautiful manual that we all refer to. I like have it on my, in my library. Had you already done that?
My work on the PSW committee within Ventura County SELPA actually started when I was still a school psychologist in the
Okay.
district. So I helped pilot a version of PSW at my school site. We were one of the 8 schools to pilot that. And so we started working on it at that point. And then when I transitioned to my county office position, SELPA was right upstairs. And so that was kind of part of my role as well, as I got to do a lot of that committee work. We started doing trainings. And so I was kind of doing that simultaneously.
Got it. Okay.
And so when I left, it was a lot of PSW trainings. And I will tell you, when I left, I thought I was going to go do in-person PSW trainings forever. Like, or at least like, that was it. That was my thought. And I remember talking to my husband. I had honestly been married for about 3 months when I decided to leave my job. And I was like, hey, this is what I'm thinking now. And I just remember like all of January, like every week, it would be like, all right, I think we're going to be okay. I think this is going to be okay financially. If nothing else happens, except the trainings I already have set up, like we're going to be able to pay our mortgage, for this amount of time. And it was always, I can always go back.
Yeah.
And always go back to the school psychology world. I love that. So there's nothing, it's not a bad thing. I could always go back and, get a position there. So it was great for about 3 months. And then spring break hit. And when spring break hits, trainings kind of drop off, right?
Right.
Because, and you and I were talking about this before we hit record, like once spring break hits, school districts are super busy trying to get everything accomplished.
Yeah.
It's not the time they bring in someone to do PD for them. And so all of a sudden I was freaking out. And I remember talking to my old director, who's one of my mentors, and she knew I had left. And I called her up and I said, I think I made the worst decision in my life. I think I made a big mistake. And she said something I will always remember. If you can hold on financially, there are going to be opportunities that aren't even on your radar right now. And I totally put my trust in her, and we were fine financially.
Yeah.
And she was so right. The things I got to do since March of 2016 have been so varied and have been things that weren't even part of my vision or my plan.
Yeah. It's like you opened yourself up to instant, and it just evolves.
And I'm someone who likes to like do multiple things.
Yeah.
Like I was the full-time school psych who also, taught a class or something like that. And I was volunteering over there, like I've never been the person who just does one thing. And so I think that's one of the things I like too, is being an LEP allows you to do different things if that's what you want to do.
Right.
You can do some assessment, you can do some counseling, you can do some trainings, you can do consultation. You don't have to just do one thing. And I think it's one of the things that's great about being an LEP in California is that a lot of school psychologists went into this field thinking they were going to do all the NAS domains in their day-to-day job. And then they just go in and assess and write reports and have meetings.
Yeah.
And so it's a wonderful opportunity to really, I think, utilize all those skills and all the passion that so many of us had going into this field that unfortunately, just the way public schools are right now, not everyone's able to do that every single day.
Right. Right. So you jumped ship and you took the leap and you trusted yourself and you started doing trainings, and this is 2016. And then when, so then what started to happen, and, when did you kind of start dabbling in like clinic work or like private practice work? And then how did just your whole like trainings and the prepared schools, like how did everything go?
I love assessment, and I knew that I wanted to do some private practice work, but I was really uncertain about how to market myself and how do I get all this money to buy all these test kits and all of these things. Like Q Interactive was like just starting up, way back when. And so I actually was teaching a class, a school psychology class, this summer. And one of the people that I brought in was someone I had worked with, and she used to work with our ED programs, and she had recently left the school district and was working for this private school. So I really wanted her to come in and talk about her work with the emotionally disturbed population, but as well, hey, there's these other things school psychologists get to do as well. And she started telling me that at this really nice private school, that they also provided educational testing for students at that school as well as the community. And she kind of explained how it worked. And I remember walking her out of the class and I was like, hey, that sounds cool. How can I get in on that?
Yeah.
And she was like, if we get really busy, they said that I could, look to hire more people. And I'm like, call me if that happens.
Yeah.
And so I got to do that for a while. And for me, that was very, what's the right word? Like, it just made me feel so much more confident, because so many of us in public schools, I don't think realize that we have so much backing there. It's not us. It's our team. We always say it's our team. It's a team decision. We do all this stuff. If someone gets mad at me, I have like 5 people I can call. But when you're out there by yourself and someone's mad at you, you're like, no one's standing behind you.
Right.
And so to be able to get involved in something that was already up and running, they were like, okay, we're going to do all the marketing. We're going to collect all the payment. We already bought all the tests. You can use our office space. Like you just made me feel so much better that I didn't have to figure all of those stuff out. And all I had to work on was evaluating the student and figuring out how to write a report as a private practitioner.
Yep. Yep. Which are big in and of itself.
Exactly.
Because you're learning how to do academic achievement testing, which we don't normally do. And you're having to write a private practice report, which should be, I think, different.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I know, and I went out in 2012 thinking like, I'm just going to go out on my own, and then I was like, just kidding. Just kidding. And then I went and worked for someone for a long time so that I could get my sea legs, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was really helpful. So, okay. I didn't
It
know
was
that about
very
you. Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
And I did that for many
Yep.
years. And then at some point I realized, because of course there's a lot of benefits for that, but of course they take a percentage of your money, right? Like they're not doing all this for nothing.
Yeah.
And I think I got the confidence I needed and was able to figure out, I think I can do this on my own.
Yep.
And so I made the decision to open up, okay, I'm going to get my own office. I don't want anyone coming to my house. So I'm going to get my own office space. And I think I signed the lease at the beginning of March of 2020.
Yeah, like right. I was January 2020. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I signed the lease and
Uh-huh.
then I wasn't legally allowed to move in because we weren't allowed to leave our houses. And I remember like I was so excited because I actually had a client, like someone knew my name, gave this family, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. And then I was like, I'm getting my office in a couple of weeks. And then I was like, hey, the whole world shut down. I don't think we're going to do this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh my.
so, it took a while
Yeah.
for us to be able to do that. So in the meantime, I'm still doing trainings. One of the things I got to do when I was an administrator is we actually created programs for special ed teachers,
Mhm.
and we ended up moving some of our content online. So we were using the system they were using at the county office, but that was one of my roles, was figuring out how are we going to move all of these hours of in-person training, to an online format. And now I know that I learned all of that so that I could figure out how to do that in my private practice.
Yeah.
And it really, my very first online class had to do with the idea that I was doing a lot of trainings around learning disabilities, and I would go to school districts and sometimes I would work with them for, multiple training days in a year. There were some school districts I went and hung out with them for 2 years, and then they would hire someone new. And they're like, hey, could you catch her up in 2 hours? And I said, you want me to throw everything I've taught you guys over 2 years? And no, I
Right.
can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like, I should just make some online classes. And that was my initial thought. This is going to help you for your new hire. This is the perfect thing for your new hire because it's going to be all the information, but they get to listen to it at their own time and they can listen to it again and again. And so that's when the online pieces really started. It was to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Which was school districts, as always have this revolving door of how do we get these people caught up?
Yep.
And so it was just solving a problem that I was having because I felt uncomfortable trying to fill in someone in 2 hours on something that has taken me, days of training.
Right.
And then honestly, that turned into a membership. I was part of someone else's membership. And I was part of it and I was learning some stuff. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, why don't I have one of these? I have all these online classes. Like, why don't we just put them all together? And then I can provide, and I'm again thinking about these memberships I'm in. What do I like about them? Oh, they have office hours. I love that ability to do that. Look,
Yeah.
they have new content all the time, right? So we're also able, any new changes that happen in the field, we can push that right on out to you.
Yeah.
So it's a slow roll. I always say, if you would have said, honestly, at any point in the last 8 years, what is your 5-year plan? None of this was ever in any 5-year plan.
Hmm.
Even like when I left to go to move to the county office, I remember someone once, I was working with a coach and they were like, have you ever thought about going out on your own? And I was like, why would I ever do that? Why would I ever leave the safety and security? This is what I told her, of the public school system. That's
Right.
insane.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember saying that.
Mhm.
Yeah. But then there are so many reasons now.
There are so many reasons, and there's still so many reasons. I always go back to, if all of this folded tomorrow, well, there's a shortage of school psychologists. I could go get a job.
Right. Right. just apparently not in like Orange County because I'm seeing, but come up to Northern California. There are
Always.
plenty of jobs up here.
They've said that for the last 25 years I've been in this field. If you can move to Northern California, you can get a job.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plenty. So yeah, I mean, we do always have a fallback, right?
And I think it's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a wonderful one. And I think for people who, like you said, you were like, I'm going to go out on my own. And then you're like, just kidding.
Yeah.
I think sometimes LEPs try that and they're like, I'm out of here. And then they're like, that didn't work exactly how I thought that would.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong. And I think once you get out into your own space a little bit, you do kind of fall back in love with the counseling or the consultation. And I think that allows you, if you have the capability of some, movement or something like that, to be able to go like, maybe I don't love assessment as much. Could I find a position where I could do some, because nowadays you can find positions that are just counseling.
Right.
There's so many opportunities nowadays that as people are building up their businesses, if they don't want to leave 100%, I mean, there's so many wonderful agencies. They're like, we'll fly you in for a week. You go get your stuff and then you work. There's so many opportunities that I think is great when people are kind of keeping a foot in both worlds is one way I've put that.
Yeah. I mean, I worked in private practice on the side for 10 years before, like full-time school psychologist, part-time private practice for 10 years before I completely left. There's lots you can do.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now, and I will say, like you say, it's a slow roll, but like watching you and how much not just content, but like great content you're putting out all the time. You're on top of like every law case. You are like, just all the things that come out. It's just, it doesn't seem like a slow roll. It seems like you've got a lot going on and in a very like professional and, it's like a whole thing that looks very, very put together and very helpful and very thoughtful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now, we're a couple years post COVID. Are you fully doing trainings and prepared school psych? Do you still have any private practice going on? I think you do work with some school districts as well. And like, how is that all working for you?
Yeah. I've never done a breakdown and I think it's very seasonal. Like I mentioned, there's not a lot of trainings going on right now as we're recording this because it's near the end of the school year.
Yeah.
So there's certain times of the year that, yes, I am still doing in-person or virtual trainings. I love doing them. I hope those never go away. Ongoing, providing content for the memberships. So being able to, be there live for office hours and different things like that. I have some school districts. It's, again, nothing inside my brain. It wasn't a plan, but one of the people that I used to work with, one of the school psychs I used to work with moved into, more of an admin role and was like, hey, you used to mentor back when you were in the school district. Could you help come mentor our new psychs? And I was like, I would love to do that. I love mentoring new psychs and I don't get to have interns, right? We don't have interns as LEPs. And so it was such a wonderful opportunity to kind of go in and be able to provide that support. So I usually pick like a school district or two in a year where I'm providing support for new hires, I'm reviewing reports and providing feedback. Sometimes I'll help with overflow assessments, or usually it's super fun, high profile cases that they would love for me to help out with.
Right, of course.
And then in between, I will sometimes get private practice clients calling me. And I'm on a couple of lists, mainly in private schools in my area.
Yeah.
I'm just on a couple of lists. So those, again, are very seasonal. This is not the time of the year, but we're about to, because summer's about to hit. And that's usually when I tend to get a lot of phone calls, or in the fall, right? People are coming on back. So I will pick up private practice clients when it seems like it works for me and when I feel like that's the right client for me.
Yeah. I think you in the past were doing a little bit of executive function coaching as well, right? Did you like that? Are you still doing it?
I love anything about executive functioning. While everyone else during COVID was learning how to make bread at home, I took an executive functioning course on how to teach it, because that's the kind of school psych nerd I am. Um, I really liked it. It was a very structured program, and I love a good structured program that's like, here's a workbook. This is what to say in session one. So I did do that a couple of times. I think COVID was nice because it taught us that we could do a lot more things virtually.
Yeah.
And so there were definitely some of the families that maybe I had done some testing with, the kind of student I end up attracting. I work a lot with kids with dyslexia. I work with a lot with kids who have ADHD and executive functioning issues. So a lot of times that's a recommendation, is to find an executive functioning coach. And so my list, sometimes my name's on that list and sometimes I take my name off of my own list. It
Really
just
good to
depends
know.
on like, do I want to continue working with this family? And is this the best time for me right now? Because I love it, but most of the time what that is it's multi-week, sometimes multi-month.
Right.
And to be able to say, especially with a student who has executive functioning issues, you probably know this because I know you do this as well. A lot of times the parent involved has some executive functioning issues as well.
Yeah.
So I can't have like, well, this week will be Monday, but next week will be Thursday. And like, you got to have like one date on the calendar every week.
Yeah.
And because I get to do so many in-person trainings, that's hard for me to promise I'm always going to be in one spot
Right.
all the time. So actually, I just listened to a replay from the school neuropsych conference, and Peg Dawson, who got like the Lifetime Achievement Award, she got to talk and do a presentation about executive functioning. I haven't heard her speak in so many years. And she was talking about an executive functioning coaching program that she runs. So I signed up for that.
Oh my gosh. You're
I
so
signed up for it. Yeah,
hashtag lifelong learner.
I talked to my team. We have meetings every week, and I was like, all right, I wasn't sure how to break this to everyone. Some of you are really excited about what I'm about to say, and some of you are going to be a little overwhelmed, but I signed up for something else I'm going to do.
Are you having them do it with you?
No, but one of my content specialists loves executive functioning just as much as I do. So of course her face is all lit up like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh. And then, the person who tries to help me figure out how to put everything on my calendar, like her face dropped and was just like, and I said, don't worry, I've already figured out I'm just going to do it on the weekend. She was like, okay. Like
Oh,
you don't have any time for this. And I was like, I know, but I really want to do it.
you sound just like me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think one of my team was like, have you ever had today, literally this morning, have you ever had just one job? Like, nope,
No,
no,
no, I would hate it.
no.
I would hate it. I need to do different things.
Yeah.
And, I think about this executive functioning coaching, and you can also work with college students, right? It's one thing to work on executive functioning with a fifth grader and their
Uh-huh.
parent, right? A lot of times in the schools, obviously you got to work a lot with the parents, a lot with with the school itself. And again, for my timing, I don't always have all of that time that in my mind I would think would really be needed for this.
Yeah.
I've done some evaluations with college students, and I love being able to work with this population.
Mm.
Most of them are, obviously ones who they themselves think they have it, something going on. They are concerned about dyslexia or ADHD or something like that. And so to be able to work with someone and just be able to work directly with them,
Yeah.
like I'm really excited about this coaching program. I mean, ask me in a couple of months when I'm like in it. I'm super
Well,
excited.
you know what? Thank you for bringing that up, though, because that's one of the talks I have not gone back to watch yet, and I need to. And I would have completely forgotten about it. So I'm going to go back and watch that because she did the keynote.
Yes.
And I haven't watched it yet. And maybe I'll sign up too. I'll let you know. I might be like, sold. I'm doing it. Yeah.
I forgot how amazing of a human being she is.
Yeah. Yeah. I could listen to, she's one of those people I could listen to speak over and over again. I don't know why I forgot that I didn't do that yet. So thank you. Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah. Now I get to reread all her books again. So
I know they're just sitting right there on my, I even have, wait.
I have her coaching book too.
Yeah. So does she uses these?
She does use those. And I think she is coming out with an updated coaching book.
Okay.
Because she had given the information about like what we needed to purchase, and it looked like it was an updated edition. So,
okay. All right. Well, they're sitting on my shelf. My executive function coach who I have here in my practice, she loves to work with college age students and adults and stuff. Yeah, people have to really be ready for EF coaching, and that's one of the things we have learned repeatedly. But okay, so anyway, I have so many questions to ask you. Okay. You said something just now, like my team. And I remember you saying way back when that you did not want to ever have a team, that you were always going to be by yourself. So tell me what has happened and tell me about your team and what kinds of things they're doing for your business.
I will say, like most LEPs, I started and I did everything by myself. I did all my own invoicing. I did everything. And I thought that was great. And I really love that I have so much background knowledge about all the different facets of my my current business, so that when we hire someone new, I'm like, oh, no, this is the historical perspective. And this is why we set that. Like, I like having that.
Yeah.
But depending on what you want to do with your business, at some point, we usually need to hire someone part-time to do something for us. And the book that completely changed my life as an LEP is called The E Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth. And the E Myth taught me, I will never forget, I'm going to butcher exactly what it says, but it's something like, if someone else could be doing this, someone else should be doing this. You should be spending your time in your business doing what you are amazing at.
Yeah.
And then went through like the main aspects of, most jobs. Obviously, it isn't a book about LEPs. It's just a book about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And it talked about the accounting and the invoicing and aspect. And then it talked about some of the admin work and then, the marketing pieces and all those things. That was a very slow, in my mind, a very slow role as well. I hired people I knew. I remember talking to someone, I was like, is this what you do for your job? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, can you help me find someone to do this for my business? They're like, I can do that for your business. I was like, excellent.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people literally was like just like a couple of hours a month were helping me with certain things. But the first person who helped me was for the accounting kind of piece, the invoicing, because of course I'm doing all these school district trainings, and school districts are so fun to try and get money back from. And
just their contracts, Yep.
But I remember my accountant being the person who was so happy with me, because I think the first year in my business, I sent him my stuff in a Microsoft Word document table. And he was like, you don't use QuickBooks or Excel? And I was like, I don't know how to use either one of those things.
You know what, Jenny, though, you make such a nice Microsoft Word table. Like I know because I have used them and like added to them. I love so no shame in that game, Jenny. You do a great job, but keep going. No QuickBooks for you.
No QuickBooks for me. I mean, I have it now, and the person who does my bookkeeping uses QuickBooks. And I can watch a YouTube video, and I could probably learn how to run a report if I needed to. But honestly, I just email her, and I'm like, I need this.
We're like the same person. Yeah.
It just started out with just a little bit of something. It was someone helping me with admin stuff. It was someone helping me with this. It really took me a long time to give someone else my work to do.
Yeah.
That is hard.
Yep.
And so it's really figuring out, I mean, the easy things to let go are the things you hate doing. I don't want to follow up on invoicing. Just pay me, right? Like, I don't want to harass you. I don't want to have to like 3 o'clock in the morning. Did I get paid by so-and-so? Like, I don't like to do, like, those are those easy things.
Yeah.
But throughout the last 8 years, I've also worked with a number of business coaches that have helped me figure out what I want to be spending my time on. And then honestly, when I got to the place where I was going to hire someone that maybe wasn't a good friend of mine,
Right.
I was like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Like, who am I? And how am I supposed to figure out? I don't have a background working in HR. I don't know what skills am I even looking for in this person? And so, the word coaching means a lot of different things. And a lot of like this person I was working with at the time, she was like, step 1, this is what I was like, oh my goodness, thank you. And I was writing it down. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So really I have people who support me with my admin work. I have people who support with the content, some of the content. I do a lot of the content, but I do the content for things that I'm really feel good about.
Right.
Our field is way too big for any one person to be like, I could do a training about anything.
Right.
No. So I did start hiring other people who could bring in their expertise.
Yeah.
So like within my prepared school site community, like we have a preschool school psychologist. That's such a specialized world.
Yeah.
Like I need someone who's like devoted like the last couple of decades to preschool psychology, right? I have someone who loves the counseling world. I've done counseling. I can do counseling. It's not one of my favorite things in the world. So I'd rather find someone who like can tell you all about the counseling stuff. Right. So we have some extra people who can help really fill in for me the things that I'm not comfortable with. I could go look up, but I'd rather just have people who really know what they're talking about in those areas.
Yeah.
We do a lot of tech stuff nowadays. I have these online platforms and from my website to the membership group, like, I don't know how all that stuff works nowadays.
Yeah.
I will say that's actually probably one of the first things I did hire was I did have someone else build my website, my first website.
Yeah.
I remember working in a group and we were like working on it. And I was like, I think I'm gonna, I'm smart. I can figure out how to do that. There's all of these great websites that you could just click and drag. And I remember someone in my group and they're like, is this how you want to spend your time?
Yeah.
Like, we're not doubting that you don't have the skill, but is this what you really want to do? Because you can go over to Fiverr right now and probably for $25, someone can get you a 2-page website up and running. And I'm like, maybe that's not how I want to spend my time.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you are outsourcing and that you are also just like bringing people in to work with you. I just remember this. I remember you saying like, you had scared me because you were like, you don't want to have any employees, like actual employees.
Oh, employees. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have employees and you're right. I mean, there are so many very, very challenging aspects of having employees. There are also some amazing benefits. And it is there are lots of pieces with that are
there are. And I will say everyone who's with me right now, they're all contractors.
Right. And
I don't have any
practice. Right.
Yeah. I don't have any full-time anyone. Everyone who works with me does other things with other people. And that's where we're at right now. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's nice because you have the kind of practice where like they are all doing like kind of their independent work, right? Like I can't have the people in my practice being independent contractors because like I'm overseeing their work. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, that's really cool for you. I'm very happy for you because it's like a whole headache that is worth it, totally worth it for what I wanted to build. But also, I mean, and this is just for like the audience, like it is very difficult to have staff. and to like manage all those things like you're talking about, like HR and what happens if somebody's leaving or if you're hiring or, in the onboarding and the, like it's sick leave and like all the things. So, and I am actually like on Monday, I have my first person starting who was not somebody that I like previously knew or knew through a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And had to like hire on Indeed. But I had help with that because I did not know how to do it either. Yeah.
I will tell you, when I had to get my first tech person, there is a website called hiremymom.com.
I'm like, where's my pen again? Hiremymom.com.
And so you could post a job on there, but one of the things that of course costs more, but they had a concierge service, which is we'll help you write your ad and then we'll interview the people for you. And then we'll send you the recording of of the top 3 candidates. And then you just tell us which one you like. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Now I could go, like, I know what I'm looking for. I know what works, what doesn't work. Like, I've been through the process enough times. I could do that on my own now. But at that time, I was like, please, I will pay you anything to just go figure this out. I don't know what questions to ask a tech person.
Yep. I made my marketing team do this job that they told, like, I made them do it for me because I was just like, I don't know how, help. And they did. Now I'm like, okay, maybe the next time I'll be able to do it myself, right? Anyway, okay, well, so tell me about, like, speaking of, challenging things, what are some challenges that you've had as you've gone through this process and kind of what guidance might you give to somebody based on what you've learned?
I think for a lot of people who are starting out, there's the unknown, right? Like, how do I even build a business from a legal perspective, right? In California, when do I stay a sole proprietor? When am I allowed to be an LLC? And you've seen all these questions on the Facebook groups too, right? I will say my accountant was my go-to person. My accountant had a lot of background knowledge with, startup businesses and things like that, and knew my financial status too, which is an important piece to consider. I was a sole proprietor for a very long time. And we got to a place where, like, every year I'm like, S Corp yet? S Corp yet? And he was like, this is the year. And I was like, excellent. How do you do that?
Right. Right.
So I think making sure, it's one of those things that you got to make sure you do that correctly. From a legal standpoint, you don't want the state to be like, you forgot to file that form. You now owe us all of this money. So if that's something, I mean, there are so many things you can go online and Google and, be able to do that on your own, but we want to make sure that's set up really, really well. And I think when I was starting out, there weren't many resources in that area for our very specialized world of being an LEP.
Yeah.
And so there's so many more resources now that I am so thankful that people are able to do that. But I think it's also interesting in some of the different Facebook groups where people will throw out that question. And then you just get in all of these different responses. And those people are responding based on what they know, based on their status. So, like, anytime I always see that, I'm always like, go talk to your accountant. Like, you need to figure this out for you and figure out, again, like, how to protect you and your family. That's going to be different from one person to the next.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too, and I think many of us have done this, is we say yes to a lot of things at the beginning, right? There's this feeling of scarcity. We might really need the money, right? And so we say yes to things. And one of the things I will always tell someone newer to the field is, like, you got to check in with your gut, because there's certain families I have worked with that, like, at the beginning, I was like, is this a good idea?
Yep.
And sometimes I've listened to that and sometimes I've not listened to that. And usually if I've not listened to that at the end, I'm like, I should have listened to that.
Yeah.
Right. And for some people, as you are building up your businesses, you can start really being a little bit more specific on exactly what it is that you want to take on, and to be able to say no to certain things. I have, other LEPs in my area that if someone, if I'm not able to take them on, or they're asking me, like recently I had a parent ask me about like testing a 3-year-old. That's not up my alley at all. So like having that go-to list of people, I think is really helpful so that you can feel really comfortable. I think most of us are always in that, well, if I can't answer it, I need to give you like 5 other people's names. So to start to build up that list there.
Yep.
I think one of the things that as school psychologists, a lot of people, of course, don't always understand is the marketing piece. Because as a school psychologist, you would rather people not know what you do most of the time. And could you please stay away from me? I am busy enough, right? No school psychologist is out there marketing to the parents, like anyone concerned about none of us are doing that, right?
You got those parents who are like, we don't have a school psychologist at your school. You're like, yes, you do.
Yes, you do. They're quietly behind some door right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because, again, being an LEP in the state of California, your license is restricted. And so I think we got to think about, I mean, for a while I was doing social media marketing. And then I really started thinking about, is that really how I'm going to find parents? Like, you have to be in California. And if you're going to come to me for testing, you probably need to live nearby me.
Right. Right.
And social media is this like huge wide net that I don't like. For me, I was like, this isn't a good use of my time.
Right.
And so one of the things I did, and I always tell everyone else to do, tell everyone you know what you are doing.
Yeah.
Anybody, any friends, family, anybody, because you never know who they're going to talk to, who's going to bring something up.
Yeah.
Yes, I have some relationships with some of the private schools in my area and I'm on their list, but the large majority of the referrals I have are from people.
Yeah.
Or someone else giving someone. And sometimes they're like, oh, Jennifer gave me your name. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. I don't know who Jennifer who, right? And I'm just always nodding. I'm like, that's great. Wonderful. Yeah. Right. Jennifer could have just talked to someone else who knew me or knew someone who was, you just never know. Yeah. I find the word of mouth just to be, from a marketing perspective, tends to kind of hit your group a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. And I just like try to stay front of mind with like different people in the area who I know, like you kind of just got to keep making your rounds and being visible and talking about what you do. Yeah.
I think also once you have been in the field for a little bit, you usually do start to decide like, this is my ideal client, right? Like I said, like, I really like working with dyslexia, ADHD, like that's my ideal kind of situation.
Yep.
So then trying to figure out how can I go hang out where my ideal client is hanging out so that I can hear about those different pain points.
Right. Right.
So I can hear what those frustrations are so that when we're from a marketing perspective, trying to solve someone's problem, right? A lot of times you got to use the wording they're using.
Yeah. Yep.
And so just dropping into some Facebook groups sometimes, not to market yourself there, but just to listen to it and to read it, going to a chat meeting, a local meeting, to be like, what are these parents really concerned about? Is that something that I could offer?
Right.
To help support that?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, in our last little bit of time here, Jenny, I feel like I could talk to you forever, but, I want to know what you super, super love about what you're doing right now and tell everybody how they can find you.
I love any time I'm able to do any sort of training, consult, like any sort of direct work. I love that. Anytime someone's asked about a training, was like, I love sitting in my office. I love doing a good virtual training, but if I could be there in person, I really, really love that. And if you ever talk to any of my elementary school teachers, they would be so surprised by me saying that because I was such a super quiet child that like, I remember finding a report card that they were like, we really wish Jenny would speak in an audible tone in class. And I'm like, hey, Mrs. Walker, look at me now. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I love doing trainings. I really, really do. And I really, at the end of the day, it always comes down to helping students. So when I get to work still directly with students and their families and trying to figure out, like, why is school so hard for you? Right. And those are a lot of the words I still use today and have for the last 25 years of like why we're working together. We're working together because I understand that you try really hard and that school's hard for you sometimes.
Yeah.
And we just want to figure out why and how to make this a little bit easier. And I love the like detectiveness of our job.
Yeah.
I could probably teach a class on how to procrastinate report writing, but I also love the report writing process because that's where like everything comes together and you're like, look, this aligns, this all makes sense. Like I love that process. It's just the typing of it. Yeah.
I completely understand. Yeah, completely.
Well,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, you had asked like how people can find me.
Yes.
So my website is just my name, jennyponzuric.com. I am on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, just under, at Jenny Ponzuric. And then for both YouTube and my podcast, it's called the Prepared School Psych. So that's how you can find me in all those areas. And you had mentioned some stuff that I know comes out in my newsletter. So, I do have a weekly newsletter. We try and really just provide a lot of free resources to people that are out there. So you can sign up for that on my website if you're not already on it.
Yeah, it's very helpful. I love when you drop into my inbox. And what kind of content are you sharing on your podcast?
We're trying to do a little bit of a mix here. So I will say one of my favorite topics is talking about leadership.
I've seen a lot of that lately. Yeah.
Yeah.
On your podcast. Yeah.
Yes. So we're like reaching out to different state association presidents. I'm a past president of CASP, and I feel so strongly about our state level associations. And it's been amazing for me to talk to all these people and figure out what other people are doing. And then I'm like, I need to be doing more of what you're doing. Those conversations inspire me, and I'm taking notes about, I got to look that up. I got to figure out how to do those kind of things. And then just other topics, people are dropping in on my website and, adding some topics that they're interested in. So someone recently, we had a little bit of information about a manifestation determination, and someone's like, could you go a lot more in depth? And I was like, we will work on that. And just recently recorded one on imposter syndrome, which I know is a huge thing that our students really struggle with. So really, whatever people are interested in, post it on our website, and we're happy. I will talk about it, or I will find someone who can talk about it with me. So
awesome. Great. Well, I love that you are just like contributing to the field in so many ways. And you've just definitely been an influence in my professional growth. I remember seeing you at CASP back in like 2016, 2017. I mean, I was there and like, you're like, I love a whisk. I love the whisk. I get, like I still hear you in my head when I'm giving the whisk. But yeah, it was such a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for inspiring us all and helping us learn and just being like a thought leader in this field. So, and thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your lovely podcast, helping all those LEPs out there who are trying to figure out what to do with that wonderful LEP.
Yes. Well, there are so many things. And I think that like bringing people's stories to the field, it's just like inspiring to like hear what people are doing. I love having these conversations. So yeah. So thank you, Jenny, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Jana.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Empower LEP podcast. Episodes can be found at empowerlep.com. If you liked what you heard, please leave a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to connect. I would love to learn more. I can be found at jana@empowerlep.com.